You ever notice how there's always that one person in the group who never pulls out their phone? Everyone's snapping pictures at dinner, taking selfies at the concert, documenting the sunset, and they're just standing there. Living it, or are they? Because here's the thing most people get wrong about people who don't take photos. It's not always what you think. Most of us assume someone who avoids taking pictures is either too cool for it, living in the moment, or maybe just a little camera shy. And sure, sometimes that's part of it, but if you dig a little deeper, you start to realize there's usually something else going on, something quieter, something they might not even talk about. Let's start with the first group. These are people who learned early on that capturing a moment doesn't always mean you get to keep it. Maybe they grew up in a home where photos were weaponized during a divorce. Maybe they lost someone, and now looking at old pictures feels more painful than comforting. Or maybe they just associate documentation with performance, with having to prove something to someone who's no longer around. For them, not taking photos isn't about rejecting technology. It's about protecting themselves from a specific kind of hurt. They've learned that memory can exist without evidence, and sometimes that feels safer. Then there's the second type, and this one's interesting because people romanticize it, but it's not always as enlightened as it looks. These are the people who genuinely feel like the act of photographing something pulls them out of the experience. But here's what's deeper than that. A lot of them have an unusual relationship with time. They're hyper-aware of how quickly things pass. So when they're somewhere beautiful or meaningful, they're almost desperate to absorb every second of it. The phone feels like a distraction, not because they're so present, but because they're terrified of missing something. They want the raw, unfiltered version burned into their brain, not stored on a screen. It sounds peaceful, but for a lot of them, it actually comes from anxiety. The anxiety that if they don't feel it hard enough right now, it'll be gone forever. And then there's the third group. These people don't take photos because they don't need external validation to confirm their life is real. That might sound cold, but it's not. It's actually about autonomy. They've built an internal world where their memories, their experiences, their sense of self doesn't require witnesses. They're not trying to prove they went somewhere or did something. They don't need the comments, the likes, the OMG you look amazing affirmation. It's not that they think they're better than people who do. They just genuinely don't feel the pull. And weirdly, this often shows up in people who had to become self-reliant early. People who didn't get a lot of validation growing up, so they learned to validate themselves. Or people who were overly monitored as kids and now crave privacy like oxygen. But here's where it gets really interesting. All three of these types share something underneath. They all experience memory differently than most people. For some, memory is sacred and fragile, something that gets diluted when you try to trap it. For others, memory is unreliable, so they'd rather trust the feeling than the image. And for others still, memory is personal, not social. It's something that belongs to them and them alone. And once you see that, you start noticing how this shows up everywhere else in their life. The person who doesn't take photos? They're probably also the one who doesn't post on social media much, who doesn't save text messages, who might not even keep a journal. They're not hoarders of the past. They move through life like water, leaving almost no trace. And in relationships, this can be confusing, because they might not remember your anniversary the way you do. They might not keep ticket stubs or save voicemails. But that doesn't mean they care less. It just means they store love differently. They store everything differently. So here's the question. If you're someone who doesn't take photos, which one are you? Are you protecting yourself? Are you chasing presence out of fear? Or have you just never needed the world to see what you've seen? And if you do take photos, maybe ask yourself why. Not in a judgmental way, just curiosity. Because none of this is good or bad. It's just different ways of being human. If this made you think, subscribe for more psychology breakdowns like this. We also have a Discord where people talk about stuff like this without the usual internet chaos. Links in the description. Either way, thanks for watching.